Are you struggling with inconsistency in your cash game? Or maybe you're trying to make the move from MTTs to cash and your results so far have been not what you'd want them to be? Today, we're going to be breaking down some of the biggest leaks that cash game players have and the ways that you can fix them.
We're going to give you a roadmap to fix these leaks that we're going to cover today and several more in the Pillars of Poker course, which we're launching in early April. And we're going to cover all of these and all of the exact strategies that I teach my students, including the WSOP main event champion, John Tamayo. This is exactly what I cover with them on how to improve in their cash games, how to think about cash games, starting from preflop, going all the way to postflop, bluffing, profiling of their opponents, and improving their mental game and just overall strategies on how to get better at cash games across the board.
That sounds so awesome. Why don't you go into the first leak for us?
All right, so leak number one, and this is the biggest leak that most people have, is preflop. And it seems basic, right? You just get a chart and then you listen to the chart and then that's what you should do. Unfortunately, the charts aren't made for low and medium stakes live poker, right? They're made for GTO opponents playing against other GTO opponents, right? So all these charts that you see on the internet, they're all just computer versus computer. Like, this is what a computer should play against another computer. They're not made for these games where you're seeing the flop 4 or 5 ways every time, right? So you have to take that into account, and you can't really model that in a computer simulation, right? And in order to take that into account, right, you have to use a lot of intuition. You can do some modeling to help close it in, right? But then the other thing that we do is we use a lot of mass data, built up millions and millions of hands, right? Just in these kind of like soft, relatively fishy games with lots of calling, lots of like pre-flop limping, things like that. And we've dialed in what actually makes money in each of these spots, right? So the three main leaks in pre-flop that I see from even pros, right, is they open much too loose in early position. They're opening hands that maybe the computer says is okay, but when you're going to have 4 people flat behind you, you can't open that hand, right? So some hands like 5-6 suited under the gun in a 9-handed game, you just can't open, right? It's pretty dicey, even if it was like a pretty tight game, pretty thin. But in a game where everyone's going to flat you, you just can't open that hand. It's not going to make money.
No, I just want to interject and say I think there is a mental game aspect to that too, because when
Mm.
you're sitting there playing full ring, whether it's cash or MTTs, and maybe you haven't had a hand in a while, and you
Oh
see
yeah,
something like that 5-6 suited, and it's pretty, right? But then because
you
you're
can make
bored
a
and
straight, you can make a
right,
flush.
right, and because you're
Yeah,
bored, you're like, I'm going to play
yeah,
it, and then it
yeah,
ends up maybe you do and you go multi-way and you lose a big pot, and then you feel bad, and then
right,
it just devolves into
right.
a whole other mess.
Right, because it's great when you make a straight or a flush, but you almost never do. And even if you make a flush, you got 5
Mhm.
other players that they may all have the king 7 suited. So your 5-6 suited shrinks up.
Exactly,
Um,
exactly.
the other mistake, and pros make this too, but fish are much worse at it, obviously. But even pros in live games, because they feel like they have an edge, right? They will cold call way too much outside of the big blind. So the preflop strategy that we advocate for involves almost zero cold calling when you're not
Mm.
in the big blind. And again, like, this is something we can back up with mass data. It's almost never plus EV to flat a hand, except for maybe some pocket pairs, and we'll cover some specific situations. And sometimes on the button, you can squeeze a little bit of flatting in there. But just doing far too much cold calling with hands that should either be folding, or leak number 3 is they don't 3-bet enough hands that should be 3-betting. Because when you cold call, you just invite people to come along behind you, right? And so again, you go multi-way, and we can look at like all these like equity simulations, right? Just like how that works out, right? But your equity drops a ton when you go multi-way, playability goes down. You need a stronger hand to win a showdown, right? Just everything just goes downhill, right? When you start going multi-way. So in order to counteract that, one, you have to be a little tighter than you would want to be probably. And then you have to 3-bet. A lot more of your hands should be 3-bet, and you try to isolate players more often.
Right. This is some really good advice, but I think it's one thing to know that you should do this, but it's
Mm.
quite another to be able to put it into practice. And I think that's what we're going to cover a lot of in Pillars of Poker is how to actually do this.
Right, exactly. So week 1 is going to be pre-flop fundamentals, and we'll cover these tips. We'll give you exact ranges. We will talk about when to deviate from them, which
Mm.
is you should. They're not set in stone. There are reasons to deviate from them, but we'll cover exactly when you should and why you should, and why you almost never should, but when you should, why it's worth it, and when you should, what you should do. And we'll give you the exact ranges that have been developed. Leak number 2 is missing value bets, right? And I know I said preflop was the biggest leak, but I don't know. This is at least as big, right? Because the thing is, almost all of the money that you'll make in poker over your entire career will be from value betting good hands versus weak players. That's 95% of the profit, right? And what happens is people get too tricky trappy, right? They flop a set and they check it back because they want to trick the other person, right? Or they do some type of weird little like check min raise or something. And in the course, we'll talk about my number one rule of poker, which you know, do you remember it?
Yes, I do. It's if you want money in the pot, put money in the pot.
Yeah, exactly. If you want to play a bigger pot, you have to put the money in.
Right.
And so like when you flop a really good hand, you just want to play your value much more straightforwardly than I see the vast majority of people doing. And that's almost always the way to make the most money. It's almost never correct to be really tricky trappy. And you just see it constantly, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's some emotional thing about like trying to be deceptive or trick someone that like gets people to do it, right? Like it's, I don't know, but you see it just way too much. Right?
I mean, I can remember being very new to poker and I was playing in a tournament and I had flopped a set and I was just playing it so passively. And the person that I was against, luckily, was doing a lot of betting and raising and doing all kinds of things. So it did end up being a large pot, but it wasn't because I did the correct thing. I did the exact wrong thing. But then the guy said to me something along the lines of, "You're welcome. You let me bet your hand for you."
Yeah.
And I was just like, well, yeah, I did. I mean, and in my defense, I think this was like the second or third time I'd ever even played. So I was really new, but yeah, I did not do the right thing.
Yeah. And one of the things that we'll learn and we'll cover in the course too is that the vast majority of players are not aggressive enough. The idea of like getting tricky and trappy versus a player pool that is generally too passive, it just it doesn't make sense. It's not going to make you money because they're not value betting thin enough. They are not bluffing enough, right? We'll cover a little bit of that here in a minute. So they are neither value betting thin enough, nor big enough, nor are they bluffing enough. So the idea of trying to trap people, yeah, it feels great when you win a huge pot because you trap someone, right? But what happens is like the vast majority of time, you just like miss a street of value. And because the pot grows geometrically in poker, right? Missing that flop bet or missing that turn bet makes a really big difference on the river. And we'll cover a bit of the math on that. Not that I want you guys to do math at the table. That's irrelevant, but we can cover like why it matters so much.
Right.
The other half of missing value bets is just simply being scared, right? Being scared to bet and get raised, being scared to bet and be wrong, right? Get called, just overall, just like fear, right? Where it's just like, well, yeah, but if I just check, then like the pot's over and like this anxiety and pressure just goes away, right?
Yeah, there's so much social stuff around that where we as humans don't want to look stupid, and especially in a live setting where all those eyes are looking at you. There is a real psychological cost to that. And if you don't have confidence in your strategy, you're really not going to be willing and able to make those bets or raises or whatever the case may be as you need to do it. So there is quite a bit of psychology wrapped up in this that, of course, we'll be covering in the course as well.
Right. And value betting it's our second pillar of poker, right? And that'll be week 2. And we'll cover that. And we start, like I said, week 1 with preflop, and then week 2 is value betting, right? And yeah, just if there's literally one thing I could tell you about poker, it's just value bet, value bet, value bet.
I swear I need to get that tattooed on my arm or something.
Yeah, me too. So leak number 3, right? We're going to talk about bluffing and bluff catching. And this goes back to what I said about in general, the player pool being too passive and too risk averse. So almost no regs or winning players bluff the river often enough. They almost all under bluff the river compared to the size. There's like a math equation, right? That tells you exactly how many bluffs you should have on the river compared to how much value you should have based on the size, right? And again, we don't do math. It doesn't matter. The point is that like, if they don't have enough bluffs, even if they're bluffing some of the time, it doesn't matter. You're going to lose money on average on that call, right?
Right.
The vast majority of regs not bluffing enough, right? So we should be folding more versus them. Almost all fish bluff the river too much. And there is a little bit of intricacy here, and we'll cover exactly what that is in the course, right? There are lines in which they don't bluff too much, but we'll cover exactly what those are. But on average, right, the vast majority of the time that a fish bets the river, they're bluffing too much, and you should be calling much lighter probably than you are, right?
Right.
And on top of that, right, almost every player, regardless of the player type, they fold too much on the river. And again, this is another like math equation that you never have to do at the table, right? Because they overfold by so much, it doesn't matter. And you're never going to be like estimating 6% more of this or whatever. But almost everybody folds too much on the river in almost every single spot. So what this means for like the vast majority of players is you should be bluffing more on the river than you currently are. You should be folding the river versus regs more than you currently are. And you should be calling the river more versus fish than you currently are. Almost certainly, right? If you happen to be one of those players that's calling the river too much, congratulations. You've done like a lot of work and we'll dial that back into, but like those people are so rare that I don't think we're going to run into a lot of those.
Yeah.
Week 3, we'll cover this, right? How to bluff, when to bluff catch, the exact types of lines that we're looking for. What sizing are we going to use when we bluff? What are the lines where we don't want to bluff? When do we want to bluff catch versus fish? And when do we say, oh, wait, actually, this is the spot where the fish have it? Yeah, we'll cover all of that.
Just imagine if you can get the guidelines and know what you're doing in this one area, what that would do for your confidence, right?
Yeah, and that's a big deal. Like we talk a lot
Mhm.
about value betting is almost all the money, right?
Mhm.
But in terms of like feeling confident in the table, right? Like this
Yes.
bluffing and bluff catching, it definitely helps. It's going to add to the bottom line. There is money to be made there for sure. But a lot of it's just going to help you feel a lot more confident in how you plan hands. And that's actually going to be, I believe, week 5 is we're going to talk about post-flop planning. And week 4, we're going to talk about villain profiling.
Mhm.
We bucket our opponents into different basic types, and then we play a set strategy versus each type of player, right?
Right.
So when you combine all these pieces together, you've got your pre-flop plan, you have your value betting, right? You understand how to do that. You understand when, like what sizes to use, when to value bet, when is my hand worth 3 streets, all of that. You throw in your bluffing and bluff catching, you profile your villain, and then all of a sudden now you can come up with this whole plan for the hand, right? The moment you see a flop, you already know basically how you're going to play the whole hand, right? Barring some type of like really unforeseen incident, right? Where sizing gets really out of line or the texture goes super, super crazy, right? But you're going to understand immediately on the flop how you're going to play this pot 80% of the time. This is exactly how we're going to play it. Right?
Yeah.
And that
having
gives you
that
the confidence.
knowledge. Yes. I was going to say having that knowledge is going to make you feel a lot more secure. That and the fact that also within each week, we are going to be doing some mindset training as well around the major issues that go with each of the topics. But yeah, having that security and knowing that you have a plan. I don't know if it's just me, but I'm that kind of person that I like to know where I'm going.
Yeah. And there's something that's really satisfying for me as a coach, right? And now some of my students have been with me for a long time. We will be reviewing a hand and we'll just look at the flop and I'll say, okay, what's your plan for the hand? Right. And they literally just say, okay, like we're going to be value betting for 2 to 3 streets. And usually we're going to use this sizing. And these are the turns and rivers in which we're going to slow down. This is like, if he raises at any point, we're going to fold or we're not going to fold or whatever it is. And they already just have just already know how they're going to play this hand. And it takes away a lot of the pressure of trying to figure everything out on the fly because you just already know the way that this hand ought to go.
Right, exactly. So when you were working with Jonathan Tamayo, and I know you still do coach him, were you giving him these sorts of tips that then he was able to take into the main event?
Yeah, exactly. And he also final tabled a 6-max tournament shortly before he won the main event. And one of the things that he texted me on after the final table, and he said, there's no way I would have made this final table if we hadn't covered, and then listed a couple of the things that we covered. So the thing about the way that we're going to break it down, we are going to target live cash. That's what the main point of the course is.
Right.
But everything we're going to cover, the framework that we come up with is going to apply to every form of poker, because the way that we think about bluffing, why do we bluff? Who do we bluff? Right. Well, you do that in MTTs too, right? MTTs have this extra layer of ICM that throws a little complication in there, but the mental game aspect and bluffing and value betting, like all of that that's just poker. Doesn't matter if you're playing 7-card stud or live no limit hold'em or PLO MTT, right? Like all of these concepts are intrinsic to the game, and understanding them at a kind of fundamental level is going to raise your game no matter what type of game it is that you play.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking I've been a consumer of a metric ton of MTT content, and a lot of it is really great, but to have a full system, that I think is been lacking in a lot of the kinds of things that I personally have consumed. So I'm excited that we've been able to put together a solid plan, the pillars, if you will.
Yes.
So, yeah,
yes,
that's
the
exciting.
pillars of poker.
Yeah.
Yeah. Enrollment opens on March 24, closes on April 2nd, and spots are limited. So make sure you sign up. We'll have a link in the description.
Yep.
And we covered what we're going to cover the first 5 weeks already. On week 6, we're going to do a live Q&A with John Tamayo. And then we'll also do a Q&A after that Q&A of just any other questions you guys have on the course. So it's a full 6-week course, and we'll meet every week. We'll have a Discord chat group where you can post any questions. We're going to give you homework, which I know maybe is a bad word for
But
some of
not
you.
too much.
Yeah, no, not a lot. No, but we give you homework that you can take and literally just take out into the real world, apply it, and then come back to us with feedback. Hey, this is what I ran into. This is what felt like it was working. This is what felt like it didn't. Did I do something wrong? All of this, right?
Yeah.
You get it all.
Yeah. And that's what I'm excited about because I really love working with people in a real time situation where you can have a dialogue, you can answer the questions and can get the feedback. Yeah. I think it's just the best way to learn, but maybe I'm biased.
All right, guys, go ahead and click the link at the description, and we will see you soon in the course.